Hello.
Hello.
So we are in Paris.
Yeah.
And we are on our way to one of my favorite places that you have not. Well, you have been.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain?
I have been. We're going to the Musée d'Orsay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the plan for today. And I never visited the Musée d'Orsay,
But
but I sang there in a opera production 15 years ago when I was at the Conservatoire.
so fancy. So
And
you've been inside. You just
yeah.
haven't seen any art.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, today you're going to see some art, and you've probably let yourself in for just really a lot more art history than you were
Yes.
expecting or willing to receive.
No.
I'm obsessed. This may be my favorite museum in Paris. I love the Musée d'Orsay, and it has so many of my favorite artists, and you're going to just listen to that for a long, long time today. Let's go make a boyfriend sad. Someone hungry? So subtle. Oh, I should also say, as we're walking, not only are we going to be looking at art today, but we're also going to be focusing on the story of the Musée d'Orsay, because there's a really, really cool history. It was not originally a museum, it was originally something else that we're going to be talking about as we view the inside and walk around and show you the story of the Musée d'Orsay from the inside. The Musée d'Orsay is located in the 7th arrondissement of Paris, just south of the river from the Louvre, and also close to the Invalides and the Assemblée Nationale. You can get there using the line 13 or 12 metro or the RER C. We took the line 13 metro and had a lovely 15-minute walk to the museum. We've arrived, and it looks like there's really not too much of a line. This is a Sunday in mid-January, so it's not exactly the high season, but it looks like we don't have too much of a line. But also, we have a sneaky plan. What is our sneaky plan?
Multipass.
Oh, so
It's a culture card. So
yes.
as I work for the Department of Culture, we have a card. Well, I look like I just get out of jail on this picture.
It does look like a mugshot. And even if we didn't have that, actually,
Yeah.
I would be able to get into for free anyway today, because I am what's called an intermittent spectacle. So that's basically a freelance artist. And what that means is that I can get into most museums and cultural sites for free or for a very reduced price.
Yeah, but also lots of other advantages, like in Paris you can go to swimming pool for free. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things like that.
That's definitely what I want to do today, is go to
Yeah.
a swimming. Why are we at the swimming pool right now? We could be at a swimming pool.
Yeah, it's so cool, so warm.
So warm. If you are not an employee of the French state or a freelance artist, it is still pretty easy to show up here and just get in the queue. If it's high season, if it's tourist season in the summer, then expect a long wait. It's the Musée d'Orsay, it's famous, it's going to take some time to get in. But if it's the winter like this, I think even if you just showed up out of the blue, it would be a very quick wait. If you guys saw the video where I was at Notre Dame the other day, that was a couple weeks ago, and I got through that queue in less than 10 minutes. I was shocked at how quick it was. So, I mean, there are advantages to being very cold in Paris in the winter. Yeah, this is the view of the just shown up off the street line from the top. It's really not bad, and it's moving very quickly. So I don't find that terribly intimidating. I think that's well worthwhile, even if you're showing up just on the spur of the moment. And then over here,
We have the carte blanche accès prioritaire, priority access,
yes,
with the multipass.
haha. Is there one available? We're trying to find a self-service locker to put our coats in, and it doesn't look hopeful. Success! We have stored our stuff in a locker. Today, the Musée d'Orsay is one of the most beautiful and impressive museums in Paris, as well as being one of the most famous. It houses a permanent collection with masterpieces from the 19th and 20th centuries, as well as a series of temporary collections and exhibits, so every time you come here there will be something new and interesting for you to see. But first, let's go back to the Universal Exposition of Paris in the year 1900. There were big changes happening all over the city as new buildings popped up ready for the Universal Exposition. Among them was the newly opened Gare d'Orsay train station built to house the Chemin de Fer de Paris à Orléans, or the Paris to Orléans train line. Built on the former site of the Palais d'Orsay, its central location would be convenient for travelers coming into central Paris until 1939, when its short platforms meant that the station became unsuitable for longer modern trains. It fell out of use until 1974, when a plan was accepted to turn it into a new museum, and in 1986 the Musée d'Orsay opened its doors for the first time. At any given time, you can now see about 3,000 pieces of art on display inside the Musée d'Orsay. Most of the collection is French art, and it's focused on art dating from between the years 1848 and 1914, including paintings, sculpture, furniture, and photography. Just walking into the building, down the stairs, into the sculpture gallery, you find yourself surrounded by these beautiful masterpieces of sculpture, and then look up to see the glass ceiling of the former train station, and it's truly a unique experience. So, speaking of where you work,
Yeah.
do you know what's behind us?
Is the part of the front of the Garnier?
It is. It's the original statue that is one of the 4 statues of this type that are decorating the front of the Opera Garnier. There will be a video on the Opera Garnier doing a tour, because I'm obsessed with that building. But the one that's there now is a copy, and that's the original statue. This is my favorite one. Okay guys, here's the part where I'm going to start to nerd out in this video, because I love the Opera Garnier. This sculptural group is one of 4 that decorates the facade of the opera. This one is called La Danse, and it is by Jean-Baptiste Carpeaux. And when it was installed on the front of the opera in 1869, it was immediately criticized as being obscene. In fact, someone even attacked it, throwing ink on it, trying to damage the statue. However, quite soon afterwards, the 1870 Franco-Prussian War broke out, and people had other things to worry about. Nearby, there's another little taste of the opera, which was created by architect Charles Garnier. This is a 1/100th scale model of the opera neighborhood of Paris, created by Richard Peduzzi. The idea is to let visitors see an aerial view of the neighborhood to understand the planning of the streets and the layout of the area at the time of the creation of the opera. And finally, in the opera appreciation section of the Musée d'Orsay, we have this beautiful model of the Opera Garnier, or the Palais Garnier as it's sometimes called, the Garnier's Palace, because it really does resemble a palace. In the front, you have the Hall of Mirrors based on the one at Versailles. And just behind it, you have the main entrance with the very famous stairway, and the doors leading into the orchestra section of the main auditorium. I love, love, love being able to see all of the rooms and how they line up, because even when you're there in person, it's hard to know how everything fits together. And with this model, you can really see. You can also see the original ceiling. Today, that painting is still there on the original ceiling, but is covered by another ceiling that was painted by Marc Chagall. Finally, come onto the stage, where you can see a really unique view of how the flies and the rigging above the stage are set up. This is of course used for moving scenery and flats, in other words, big paintings that are used as part of the scenery in many operas. And something that I really love about the Opera Garnier that you can see very well here is this little room at the back of the stage, and just behind it, the Foyer de la Danse. The Foyer de la Danse is this very ornate room, and what you could actually do is open up the wall between the stage and the Foyer de la Danse and use that as part of the stage in very ornate opera productions. You can also see all of the rooms that are under the building. There's this incredible labyrinth of basements stretching everywhere. You thought that I was taking you to a museum to look at art, but I've just taken you to a museum about your workplace. It was a trick. Next, we headed up from the beautifully ornate main hall all the way up to the 5th floor, where you can see the beautiful train station clock. This is a great way for a really unique view of Paris. You can see right out the front, there's Sacré-Cœur and the Opera Garnier on the left. And though it is a little touristy, it's also a really nice thing you don't want to miss if you come to the Musée d'Orsay. Just next to the clock, you can turn and come into one of my favorite places of the museum. It's the Impressionist wing. This is an incredible place to be because you are surrounded by world famous paintings everywhere you look. And one of the first ones you see as you walk in is one of my favorite paintings, Manet's Déjeuner sur l'herbe. This is a painting depicting 4 people having a picnic, and it was a scandal when it was originally debuted. It was considered very shocking to show nude figures that were not from mythology, that were just ordinary people in the nude. It was also considered very shocking that some of the figures are nude and some of the figures are clothed. This painting was rejected by the Salon of the Académie des Beaux-Arts in 1863. So Manet exhibited this and 2 other of his paintings in the Salon de Refusés, the Salon of Refusals. Of the 2 male figures in the painting, one is a composite of 2 of Manet's brothers and the other is his brother-in-law. Very suitably, directly across from Manet's Déjeuner sur l'herbe is Monet's Déjeuner sur l'herbe. Déjeuner sur l'herbe means luncheon on the grass, so you can see the logic, but still confusing. Although Monet was inspired by Manet's work, his intention was to paint a scene that was much more everyday and realistic without the artificialities of Manet's work. I love how you can see the mid-19th century fashion in the women's dresses in this painting. It's in 2 sections now because at one point Monet had to pawn this painting in order to pay his rent, and when he finally redeemed it several years later, parts of it were so damaged that he in fact just cut them off. What we have now is his cropped version in 2 large pieces with slightly larger than life-size figures. Speaking of scenes depicting everyday life, we have another beautiful painting by Manet just across the way. This is Manet's The Balcony, showing 4 figures on a typical Parisian balcony. The dark-haired woman in the front is Berthe Morisot, who, as well as being a painter in her own right and a fellow Impressionist, was also Manet's sister-in-law and modeled for him in many of his paintings. I really love the little dog that you can see at their feet as well. You can just imagine that little dog jumping around and yapping. Manet is really one of my favorite artists because I love how he uses the dark blacks and blues to make the subject of the painting pop out at you almost in a cartoonish way. It is so beautiful and striking, the contrast between the lights and the darks. Laurent had to listen to me talk about that for about 30 minutes. Something else I really love seeing in the Impressionist work at the Musée d'Orsay is how little France has changed. For example, this painting by Alfred Sisley, this is a countryside scene, something he was very famous for, but honestly, this could be anywhere in the village where Everdeen is. It's so typical of that French countryside medieval stone village. I've seen 100 places like this. I never get tired because they are so beautiful, but it is so typical and so unchanged. Even now, if you go in any small medieval village in France, you'll find something that's typical of this type of scene. But speaking of the French countryside, we have to come to my favorite artist. I know it's a little cliche, but he really is. The master of the French landscape, Vincent van Gogh. I have a very deep love for Van Gogh, so I will try to tone myself down so this video is not an hour and a half long. Vincent van Gogh was living in the south of France in 1888 when he had a mental breakdown and had to be hospitalized at Saint-Rémy for almost a year. After his release from the hospital, he came to Paris to see his brother Theo, and then moved to Auvers-sur-Oise, a town just north of Paris, where he could paint beautiful countryside scenes, but also Theo could easily come and visit. Most of the collection of Van Gogh at the Musée d'Orsay is from this point in his life, sadly the last year that he lived. Despite his struggles with mental health, he turned out an incredible number of intensely beautiful paintings. And also these two very scary little girls, which Laurent was deeply unimpressed by. One of the reasons he chose to live in Auvers was the presence of Dr. Gachet, a doctor who was friends with many of the Impressionists and also painted himself. This is Vincent's portrait of Dr. Gachet, and you can see the connection to Dr. Gachet in this painting as well, which is his garden and Dr. Gachet's daughter in Auvers. You can still visit this house, by the way, if you are ever anywhere near Auvers-sur-Oise. I highly recommend it. It is a museum and it is well worth a visit. But my favorite painting from this period, and possibly just my favorite painting ever, is the church at Auvers-sur-Oise, another place you can still visit if you visit Auvers. I am going to do a video about that at some point, by the way. We are definitely going to do an Auvers video. But I absolutely adore this painting. I love how something as square and geometric as a church can be made to almost dance and move by the way that Vincent uses curved lines and perspective to play with the painting. And I love the woman walking along the road, almost unnoticed, just in front of the church. This color and movement in this painting just absolutely floors me. I adore it. Well, it's the end of the day. You can see behind us that the queue to go into the museum is completely gone because they have shut it down. Everything is closing, but we had a great time.
So, yeah, it was very good.
What did you think of your first
I really
Musée
enjoyed
d'Orsay?
it. Well, we didn't see everything. We didn't.
No, not
Yeah.
even close.
Yeah,
This is definitely at least a one full day museum if you want to see
Yeah.
everything, or honestly even 2 days.
But
And-
what we saw was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see things that you recognized that you'd
Yeah.
seen before?
Yeah, that's a lot of very, very famous art that are there, and yeah, it was really great.
And did you get really bored listening to me talk about it?
Let's say I got a lot of information.
Like good information?
Yeah, good information.
Interesting.
I'm not sure I will remember all the information I
Oh,
got.
that's too bad because there will be a quiz later.
Oh, but
Yeah.
I know next time we go, because of course we're going back because it was great.
Yeah. And to be honest, for us, we got in. It took us 3 minutes to walk
Yeah.
into the door. So.
But yeah, next time we go, I know I will get the information I forgot again, so it's good.
But I honestly think this is one of my favorite places in Paris. I, in a lot of ways, like this better than the Louvre because the Musée d'Orsay has the same kind of like magnificent collection that the Louvre does, but it's a little bit more manageable. And if you're more into 19th and 20th century art like I am, then it's really the things that you want to see. It's the artists that you really love. It's really such a special place. But I think that's about it for us today.
Yeah.
We're gonna head back home. And before we do, I'll just remind you guys to please do subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. There's a lot of cool videos coming on this channel. I've made some plans. I asked you guys recently what you wanted to see on this channel a bit more, and thank you so much for your responses because that's really given me a lot of great ideas, and there's gonna be some really great stuff coming up. And please do like this video, and a big
Thank you
big thank you to our
the
patrons.
Patreons.
You guys are amazing. Thank you, patrons. We have the nicest patrons. It's so nice. I'm very thankful for you guys. But I think that's it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye bye.